SEC Media Days are on and poppin' in the great Lone Star State, DFW area, and who better to be the talk of the town than your Texas Longhorns?
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Longhorns, the show. Lacey Butler, your host, along with Jonathan Davis. And in today's episode, we're going to cover a couple of different recurring overlying themes that I noticed while watching SEC Media Days, two different topics that kind of just really came up a lot and something that seemed to be a big priority for Sarkisian and the players and everything. So before we do that, let's hear a word from the sponsor. Whoa. Let's hear a word from the sponsor of today's show, y'all. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. The buzz surrounding the Texas Longhorns is absolutely palpable, you guys. Like, I don't know about y'all. I don't know if y'all watched SEC Media Days, but one of the biggest things that I noticed right off the bat was the confidence that was exuded from whether it be Steve Sarkisian, Quinn Ewers, Jahdae, Barron, or Kelvin Jr. All of them seemed very calm, very confident, very proud, and just very excited about joining into the SEC. There were a couple of underlying themes and recurring topics that I feel like kept getting brought up or reiterated throughout the press conference or throughout the panels. And I just kind of want to really hone in on both of those today because I feel like these are two invaluable pieces to us sustaining success going into the SEC, but also just in general. One of the things that kind of got me thinking about how I wanted to structure the episode of this show was, like I said, just the two recurring themes. And I think I'm going to split it up into segment one being one theme, segment two being the other one. So that's just the way that it works in my brain. It's a lot easier for me to do it that way. So one of the biggest overlying themes that I noticed that a lot of people consistently talked about was the depth of this team. And that's something that Sark has preached about since he stepped foot on the 40 acres. He has preached depth. He has preached wanting to make sure that we have adequate bodies in the trenches, having adequate bodies in the receiver room at valuable positions to make sure that there is no drop off, whether you're going from the ones, twos, threes, scout team, whoever. Like, he wants it to be an iron sharpens iron situation every single day in practice. And because he knows that that's exactly what's going to happen whenever we hit the field in the SEC. You have NFL talent littered all throughout the SEC. And that's one of the things that I've kind of started coming to the realization, started understanding, is that whenever people say like it just means more, or that the SEC is just that much more dominant than everybody else, I always kind of took it as like a, is that true? Because I always see the same teams kind of doing the same thing. With you have your outliers every once in a while that kind of do better than expected or that exceed expectations. But for the most part, you have 2 to 3 teams that typically kind of run the conference, is what I thought or what I understood. But one of the things that I've learned is actually just the simple fact that it's not the fact that every single team can beat any other team. It's the simple fact that NFL talent is littered throughout the conference. It doesn't matter if it's Kentucky, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, obviously Texas, Alabama, Georgia. It doesn't matter. There is NFL talent from top to bottom anywhere you look, and it's going to be a dogfight every single look. So one of the big proponents of heading into the SEC for Sark was to make sure that we had adequate depth. And like I said, it was just one of those things that just kept getting brought up. One of the things that Sark kind of talked about was like coaching continuity and being able to adapt offensively, defensively, whatever the case may be. He talked about a couple of, he talked about a couple of things that he wanted to work on. Some of the things that they've started working on in spring ball with fall camp coming up soon. At some of the couple of the priorities and everything is going to be pass defense. He mentioned that defensively, we want to continue to stop the run and get better in the passing game. Obviously, being 116th in the country in pass yards per game is not the standard that we are wanting to set for ourselves heading into the SEC, especially whenever we're going to be facing such high-powered offenses. So it's like, if that's what the passing yards per game looked like in the Big 12, we obviously need to do some sort of self-reflection to be able to address it, focus, work on it, and then apply it to in-game situations once we actually enter into the SEC. One of the things that Coach Saban talked about was how much he feels like Quinn is just so much more comfortable in his own skin, and how that kind of translates into the rest of the team. Because he talks about, team chemistry and how believing in yourself as an individual, not just as a team, is just as important as believing in your team. Because it means that everyone is bought into the same things, and it means that y'all are all working towards the same goal. It goes back to what I was just saying about iron sharpening iron. That's what it is. We want to be able to have the best, competing against the best every single day, working their asses off, doing whatever they got to do to be the best at every single thing that they do. One of the things that Saban talked about that I really liked was he was talking about he was kind of talking about or what did he call it? Relief syndrome, I believe is what he called it. Just kind of that like relief that you won the big game, but then kind of falling into just the very easy, very simple, like, oh, we won the game. So like, it's easy to sit and be proud of yourself and kind of ride that high a little bit too long. But it's just one of those things that kind of really, really piqued my interest, because that's something that we really, really need to work on. That's something that we need to focus on going into the SEC, going into year one. We have very, very high expectations, and while they are valid, while I feel like they're very accurate, it's also a situation where you don't want to fall into the rat poison. You don't want to fall into just believing that you're going to be X, Y, and Z. You have to actually go in and do the work. You have to actually go in and work your ass off and do what you got to do to make sure that you yourself are in a position to be able to lead the team the way that you need to be able to compete, to be able to apply all of your development the way that Sark or PK or Kyle Flood or whoever is explaining to you and is trying to kind of really focus, put that in your brain. But another thing that I thought was interesting was Sark said he will be rotating receivers a lot. I know that was one thing that Jonathan asked in a previous episode when he was talking about questions that he would ask Sark during SEC Media Days. And he talked about the wide receiver rotation and what that exactly is going to look like. And Sark did mention that he is going to be rotating wide receivers a lot more than he was last season. And that's because of depth. Whenever you have your top three set, Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, and Jordan Whittington, those guys were kind of set, like it was, you had a few guys here and there that could come in. You had a Jahdae Cook or a DeAndre Moore that could, jump in and have a good ball, have a good pass, have a good route right here and there. But when it comes to consistency and when it comes to being able to go and fight for those 50-50 balls, Sark knew who he had, and he knew what was going to fit his scheme the best at that time. One of the things that he's sitting here talking about now is this is the deepest receiving core that he has had at the University of Texas. I don't know if y'all actually listened to Sark speak in his press conference, but I have never, ever heard Sark that confident. He is coming in with conviction. He is coming in and talking about and praising the depth that we have seen it on all facets, in all facets of the game, whether it be recruiting, whether it be the transfer portal. Sark knows what he's doing, and he has built such great depth at so many valuable positions that it's really, really, really going to work well for us heading into the later games into the SEC season, especially whenever we hit, Thanksgiving, against A&M, Arkansas, those types of games. Depth is so important whenever you're talking about all of that stuff. Another thing in regards to depth that I feel like Sark really talked about a lot was leadership. He talked about how Bijan and Roshan his first year were really kind of the only two that were the active vocal leaders that really stepped up to motivate the team and do whatever they had to do. But then you had last year where he said there were a few different guys that kind of stepped up. He ended up going from like 1 or 2 to having, 5 to 7 guys that are constantly stepping up, constantly motivating the team, holding people accountable, and being that vocal leader that that the locker room needs. And one of the things he said that got me so excited, he's like, this year I've got at least 25 guys that's stepping up and becoming those vocal leaders. And that just, the thought of that, because what that tells me is that the culture that Sark has been so focused on setting from the very, very, very beginning is really, really, really starting to come to fruition, not just at the top level, but throughout the entire program. You see a Bijan and a Roshan being the first ones at practice, the last ones off the field, taking in all of these extra reps, staying late after practice, getting there early, all of those things. And then you move on to the next year, and those guys kind of just adopt those different tactics. They adopt those different mentality. And then you move on to the next year, and it just keeps getting bigger and keeps getting deeper and keeps getting more and more. What is the word I'm looking for? Fruitful? I don't really know. It just potent, I guess. I don't really know exactly what I was trying to say there, I'll be completely honest. But I'm just really, really excited. And to hear all of these guys talk about the depth like I said, it just really, really kind of opened my eyes and solidified it to me that is a big, big focus for Steve Sarkisian and for his entire staff, just making sure that the team stays a team and the main thing stays the main thing. And I don't know about y'all, but that makes me super, super excited as a Texas fan. So before we get into the second segment and my second topic, let's go right back into hearing about the sponsor for today's episode. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime, and I'm in the mood. That didn't make any sense. I did that so wrong, but it's okay. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer today. The second point of emphasis that I wanted to talk about, and kind of the catalyst for why I feel like Texas is the team to beat in the SEC going into this season. Let me say one of, because obviously you have Georgia. You've got other teams, but this is something that I think is making one of the biggest differences. And it kind of goes back to a little bit of what I was talking about with the vocal leadership and everything like that. And that's obsession. Whenever spring practice started, whenever spring photos and all of these different media, whatever you want to call it, whenever spring practice was going on and spring ball was happening, we all saw the shirts that they were wearing where it said obsessed. And Sark talked about how they become their mantra for the season is obsessed, to become obsessed with being better, to become obsessed with winning, to become obsessed with a winning culture, to become obsessed with each other, with football, with everything that could make you the best person, player, human being that you can be obsessed with it. One of the things that kind of started to pique my interest, like I said, I watched the panels and stuff beforehand. I watched the pre-press conference panels. Is that what they're called? Pre-press conference panels. I watched that with Nick Saban and Jordan Rodgers and company. And one of the things that Nick Saban was kind of harping on was how difficult it is to be hungry the next year after achieving success the previous. So he talked about like how he had one of their Alabama's best teams was in 2010 after winning a national championship in 2009. Side eye. But they couldn't do it. Obviously, that's a prime Cam Newton. That's a whole different situation. But he even goes to say in 2004, his team in 2004 at LSU was better than the 2003 team, and they couldn't do it. He says success is not a continuum. It's momentary. You have to have a willingness and a hunger to be better even though you won the game, maintaining a standard for culture. And that's just what Sark continues to harp on. And one of the things that I thought was very, very interesting was when Sark was up making his opening statements in his press conference, he started talking about obsession. He talked about obsessed, and he talked about how that was started by the players. The players were the ones that came up with that mantra. The players were the ones that felt like they got a little bit of a taste of what the playoffs and what success means, that they just want more. And like I said, it's not even just Sark. We heard it from Quinn, Kelvin Banks, from Jahdae Barron. They're hungry. That you can see it in the way that they talk. You can see it in the way that they're answering questions. They're super, super confident in themselves. And it all starts with them being obsessed with each other, being obsessed with being the best, being obsessed with being the best human being that they can. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about the relief syndrome and how it's very easy to just become complacent in your success. It's very easy to become complacent in what you're doing because it's worked for you before. But one of the things that Saban really, really focused on was that it wasn't about winning or winning championships. One of the things that he liked to say was be a champion in everything that you do, whether it be holding people accountable, your work ethic, the pride in your university, your performance on and off the field, to be the best you can be in anything that you do. And I think you just see so much growth. You see so much personal growth, whether, like I said, whether it be with Quinn or Kelvin Banks or Jahdae, you see so much maturity throughout all of these guys. And it almost makes me emotional because, like, as a Texas fan, that we've been through so much over the past decade, and this is all we've really begged for. You know, we've wanted this to be a thing. We've wanted the team and the players and the coaches to be as obsessed with Texas football as we are. And it finally feels like we have our guy. We have the team. We have the personnel to be able to compete at that level. And we have the personnel to be able to do whatever we need to, whether it be being there for each other after losing a game or winning a game. It doesn't matter. You know, Sark said the idea of obsession starts in our locker room. They have a taste for it and want it more. They couldn't wait to get back in the weight room, and we have a full team of competitors, which is not something we've had since day one. Again, he talks about depth and talks about this is the deepest team we've had, the most talented team we've had from top to bottom, and how proud he is of Quinn's leadership and the confidence that is just exuding from Quinn. And I agree. I completely agree, because Quinn, like I said, whenever he first started, very soft-spoken, very kind of timid and shy, and didn't really interact a lot. And then obviously you had last year with going to the college football playoff, and we all saw the photo of Quinn just sitting there with his mic and looking at all of the media members and everything headed toward or talking Arch. Sorry, I keep hiccuping. But I thought it was really, really cool to hear Sark praise Quinn as much as he deserves, because Quinn has put up with a lot. Quinn has put up with a lot from whether it be the media, our fan base, opposing fan bases. There are a lot of expectations whenever it comes to Quinn Ewers, and I'm just very, very proud of how far he has come in particular. But like I said, I think that's where it starts. It starts with your quarterback. It starts with your head coach. It starts with what they're instilling. It starts with holding them accountable, and then you're able to just see it kind of trickle down throughout the entire roster. So it's so exciting to see. You know, Sark talks about the mental and physical toughness being a priority and how they take a lot of pride in their team chemistry and their culture. And part of the standard is competing for championships in any sport, not just in football. The University of Texas is like, I get so excited sitting here talking about it. I get so excited sitting here thinking about it that I just lose my train of thought, because, you know, we're talking about, Quinn talks about player-led practices. They have player-led practices every Tuesday and Thursday. When the hell have we heard that? You know, we heard about a player-led meeting and everybody's like, oh, that's probably not a good thing. But the thing is, and Saban is the one that kind of really affirmed this for me, player-led is going to be what helps sustain success. Player-led anything, it can't always just be the coaching staffs. The players have to want it just as much as the staff does. And if they don't, it's not the culture is not going to sit right. The culture is not going to balance the way that it needs to. And like I said, I'm really, really impressed with the confidence, with the pride, with the conviction that all of them spoke with. And it's one of those things that I can't wait. I cannot wait until fall practice starts. I can't wait till the game. I can't wait till the season starts. If anything, watching SEC Media Days just made it that much more exciting, because, like I said, we were the talk of the town, y'all. Like, there were so many questions that were being tossed to Billy Napier and Brian Kelly and everything about Texas, about Quinn Ewers, about the program and our expectations and where we're going. So it was really, really cool to see it being talked about from an outsider's perspective, but I also really, really enjoyed being able to see the two different correlations, like I said, with depth and with obsession. Those were the two biggest themes that I noticed. And like I said, them talking about it just gets me even more excited. It gets me ready to go. It gets me pumped. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. I don't know about y'all, but that's it for today's episode, you guys. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Locked On Longhorns. Comment down below. Let us know what your favorite part of SEC Media Days was. Was it the press conferences? I know one of my favorites was I was laughing at all the opposing coaches getting talked to about Texas and all of the Texas questions. That cracked me up. So please comment down below and let us know what your favorite part of SEC Media Days was. I really, really appreciate you guys joining in today. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time. Hook 'em horns.